Hey there, friends. Welcome to Just the Gems. I'm Brandon, and I've been thinking. There's been a lot of cool stuff on this channel so far. Video game reviews, pickups videos, middle-aged guy griping about being middle-aged. But one thing I haven't done is a definitive top 10 list. Can I really call myself a YouTuber if I haven't done a top 10 list? No, the answer is I cannot. So I figured, what better way to start the top 10 bonanza than with my top 10 Nintendo Switch games. Yeah, you heard that right, Nintendo Switch. I know what the people like. Now, this is obviously my personal top 10 favorite Switch games, which means objectively my list is correct, and if yours differs from mine, you are wrong. Nah, I'm just kidding. Come on. Don't get mad on the internet. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. Without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. What a fantastic game. This entry in the Tales franchise is full of charm, full of action, full of Vesperia, whatever that is. I don't know that that was ever actually made clear to me. It's got new characters, it's got more story. Well, since I'd never played the original, it really just feels like the right amount of story to me, but for the classic Tales of Battle system, this one is really tops. And one thing that bugs me, because it wouldn't be a Just the Gems video if I wasn't griping about something, is I bought the collector's edition, obviously. And, it came with the game and a bunch of doodads and knickknacks. The thing I was really excited about was the steelbook, because I am a steelbook fanatic. Give me all the steelbooks. Put them in my hands, please. You know what they gave me in my Switch Collector's Edition? Pretty cool, right? I mean, yeah, definitely a very cool design. Very slick steelbook here, right? Does something look wrong to you here? Does that seem incorrect somehow? How do game go in? Why no game fit box? Whatever. Anyway, Bandai Namco, you're on notice. Don't do that to me again, please. So if I'm starting with Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition as my number 10, what are the heights that we have yet to reach? Fire Emblem, Three Houses. Now this is how you do a steelbook, Bandai. Just absolutely gorge, man. Three Houses wasn't my first Fire Emblem. I did play a little bit of Fire Emblem Echoes on the 3DS, and I enjoyed what I played, but for some reason I fell off of it, didn't go back to it. But Three Houses I played through to completion, and I accidentally picked the true route the first time through. I don't know how easy that is or how likely that is to happen, but I felt super big brain smart when that happened. And yeah, I played it on casual mode or whatever, because I don't want my characters to die and stay dead. But everything from the graphics, the voice work, the storytelling, the combat, just a brilliant experience, start to finish. I'm really looking forward to Engage and the taffy hair person. Number 8, Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler is a traditional role-playing game from Square Enix in the HD 2D style, really the pioneer of the HD 2D style. I think the thing I like the most about Octopath Traveler is the way the game is laid out as essentially 8 short stories. Now, don't get me wrong, I am as big a fan as anybody of the 80 or 90 hour epic JRPG story. Love them to death. But every now and then, it's nice to mix it up and do something a little bit different. And Octopath really scratched that itch for me. Actually, it kind of defined the itch and then scratched it. Like, I hadn't really played anything like it before, so it really showed me that there are different ways to tell a story in a role-playing game, or stories in this case. There's that on top of just the presentation. The visuals are gorgeous. It's what I imagine in my mind the video games of my childhood looked like. In my mind, they look just like this. It's just beautiful. And the music, Yasunori Nishiki is a certified genius. I don't know, had he done anything before this game? Like, was he coming out of the gate with the Octopath Traveler soundtrack? How does anybody do that? That's another Mitsuda all over. Starting out with Chrono Trigger, how do you... What? And the combat is a lot of fun. Really, really enjoy the traditional turn-based combat and the unique spins they put on that. The gigantic boss sprites for some reason. There's a lot to love about it. Now, I'm not crazy about the grind. I will be perfectly honest with you. I could have done without the need to grind and grind for hours and hours in between chapters because the difficulty really ramps up at a pretty fast rate. Not the fairest, not the funnest, but I was able to get past that and really, really enjoy my time with Octopath. So there you go. Number 7, Siete in Espanol, Breath of the Wild. Brandon, you're putting The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 7 on your top 10 list? That means you think there are 6 games that are better than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Yes, I do. Okay? I do. You made me say it. I think there are games that are better than Breath of the Wild. Now, on a game design level, is there much that tops it? Maybe not. I mean, it is a brilliant masterwork of game design. The open world with so much to explore and discover is incredible. It's insane how much they were able to put on this tiny little cartridge. Look at this thing. Look at this little guy. They put a gigantic world with a billion puzzles and monsters and, well, how did they do it? I'm also confused about how, like, old school records work, though, so maybe I'm just stupid. So, yes, Breath of the Wild is brilliant, and it's on my top 10 Switch list. So maybe I'm being overly defensive when nobody has yet to chastise me for my opinion, and maybe I'm just assuming that someone will, and maybe they will, and please comment below if you want to chastise me, because that would make my day. But picking up the Switch, a new console that I was really excited about, along with Breath of the Wild, popping that in, and coming up over the first hill when you start the game, and just seeing the world laid out in front of you was, I mean, definitely a top 5 gaming experience for that year, if not number 1. And just the whole game, you know, playing through, I am nowhere near 100% on Breath of the Wild. I have no idea how many of those little shrines that I finished. I did all of the 4 major Robo Monster dungeons, or whatever the heck they are, and I beat Ganon. But it's just, it's wonderful. Gang, it's a wonderful game. Number 6, Undertale. How do you talk about Undertale? It's a 8-bit-ish role-playing game, reminiscent of Earthbound, with an interesting and frenetic action-based, turn-based combat system, a silent protagonist, which I'm generally kind of on, but a story that moved me in such a significant way that even just listening to the music from Undertale, I get shivers up and down my spine and goosebumps thinking about how profound the story is. It's been years since I've even played the game, but barely a week goes by when I don't think about Undertale. It's an incredible achievement, basically made by one person. I mean, I know Toby Fox had a little bit of help with some things here and there, but by and large, made by one person. Just an achievement. Halfway there, and has there been any non-JRPG yet at this point? No. No, they're all JRPGs, essentially. Well, Zelda's action-adventure-y. I'm a weeb. Number 5, Bravely Default 2. I was a moderate fan of the first Bravely Default. I thought the kind of updated take on classic Final Fantasy was pretty nifty, maybe even neato. Certainly a little bit keen. I love the graphical style, love the music, the combat. Bravely Default 2 takes place in a completely different world, so if you have not played the first game, you don't have to worry. There's nothing in there that you need to know. I love that Square Enix is, despite all of its foibles, all of the things that it does wrong, NFTs and whatever other nonsense they do, that they have a division of their studio that is dedicated to keeping the old school alive, to making traditional JRPGs. You know, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a Bayonetta. What happens to classic JRPGs if Final Fantasy stops being one? Well, we've got Bravely Default, we've got Octopath, we have a variety of other games from Square themselves that are filling in that gap quite nicely. So, very big fan of the Bravely series. Check it out. Number 4, Live Alive. You knew it had to be in here. Certified gem, by the way. And like Octopath, it takes that short story format. When I first heard about Octopath Traveler, I thought, hey, this game's kind of like, seems like it's sort of reminiscent of the Saga series. The Saga games occasionally would do that split up narrative thing with like kind of a weird battle system or whatever. But I think actually the game that Octopath was trying to model itself after was Live Alive. This short story, separate but sort of interconnected plotline thing that actually started here and is being carried on in the Octopath series. Fun, grid-based, kind of semi-tactical, turn-based battle system. The graphics, obviously, HD 2D. If I'm being blunt, if I'm being honest, if I'm being a little bit harsh, maybe, I don't think that the graphics overall are quite as jaw-dropping as some of the other HD 2D games. It's still very good, but maybe not quite at the level of even Octopath or Triangle Strategy or Dragon Quest III. But regardless, love this game. Fantastic pick on the Switch. We're lucky to have it. Number 3, Crystar. Crystar is a game where you play as a teenage girl and you cry a lot. No, that's not true. I mean, it is true, but that's not what it's about. So in this game, you play as a girl who, along with your sister, you get pulled into the depths of purgatory, and you accidentally cause the death of your sister in purgatory. I don't know how it works. Dying in purgatory, dying while you're you know what? It's a JRPG. Just roll with it. And so, because you've done this horrible thing completely by accident, you make a deal with some demons to purge the baddies from purgatory, and in exchange, they promise they'll bring your sister back to life. What follows is an action RPG dungeon crawler that, to be frank, is not that pretty to look at, doesn't control all that well, doesn't have quite the variety of enemy types that you might like to see in a game like this. So what does it have going for it? Well, for me, the thing that kept me engrossed in this game for 20 or 25 hours was the story and the voice work from the main cast. It's so surprising. There are so many twists and turns in the plot that I didn't see coming, and even the ones that I kind of did see coming, they were still executed so well that it didn't matter. It was just really good storytelling. For me, if you've watched anything on my channel, you probably picked up on the fact that story and characters are number one for me. That's why I play games. I love a good story. I love good characters. And Crystar, despite everything stacked against it, has a great story, fantastic characters. Highly recommend it. Number 2, and I'm cheating a little bit here, we've got Xenoblade 2 and Torna together. We're gonna think of them as one game. Sort of is. I've said this before, but I feel like Xenoblade 2 really corrected a lot of the problems that I had with the original Xenoblade, even the definitive edition, which was far and away obviously the best version of the game to play. But there were still some issues that I had with the battle system not feeling super intuitive. Even just the way it controlled felt a little off. And to be fair, I mean, it was a Wii game originally, so it's not like we were working with the most modern example of game design. But Xenoblade 2 really fixed all of those issues and gave us just this lush and gorgeous world that I honestly feel like hasn't really been topped on the Switch to this point. The combat is refined and frenetic. Partner up with your blades, which are humanoid weapons, and it's a little confusing, but just go with it because, again, JRPG, and it's a ton of fun. The story is excellent. The voice work is very British, but very good. I feel like whatever team at Nintendo or Monolith, I don't know who localizes this, what studio they use, but they really take it seriously and they really do a good job. It's not a rushed dub by any means. Very good. Highly recommend Xenoblade. If you haven't gotten into any of the Xeno games, you probably are going to want to stick with the Xenoblade series. They're the most modern. I am a stan for Xenogears and Xenosaga on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 respectively, but it's a little bit of a hard sell to get somebody to go back and play those games if they haven't already played them, or if they're not just the biggest Xeno fans from playing Xenoblade and want to see where the series came from. But regardless, you should check out the Xenoblade Chronicles series, and especially Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And finally, my number one Switch game. If you can believe it, I can't. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's right, boom! Blowing up the internet with this hot take. Yes, I like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 the best out of every game in the series. It is far and away the most interesting and varied cast, the most compelling story, the best combat. Now, like I alluded to earlier, I do think that the environments are a little more beautiful in Xenoblade 2. So, Xenoblade 3, maybe gets docked a point or two there. Still beautiful, still great, still enormous and gorgeous, but 2 edges it out a little bit in that arena. The thing I like the most about Xenoblade 3, on top of everything else that it does right, with the combat system being refined, the side quest system being streamlined and made much more interesting than in the past. The thing that I like the most is the characters. I love that Takahashi and his team at Monolith Soft, they are 100% comfortable letting their characters just talk to each other. And I'm not talking about the quippy lines that they say to each other after every battle over and over and over and over and over and over again until you just want to die. No, I'm talking about just the moments that happen, the scripted cutscenes when you're traveling from one place to another and you get a fully produced scene between two characters just having a conversation about what's happening, what they're feeling. I honestly don't know of any other role-playing series that spends as much time and money as Xenoblade Chronicles 3 does on just letting its characters be developed and develop each other through conversation. They get to know each other, we get to know them. It's very good. I wish more games had the courage and the budget to put together scenes like this throughout their games, because it just adds so much depth to the characters, to the story, to the world. I feel so much more connected to what's going on. It's marvelous. So, to me, Xenoblade 3 is the full package. It is the best game on the Switch right now. And I have to imagine we're nearing the end of the Switch's life. I'm sure Nintendo would like to just keep rolling with this for as long as they can, but it is getting a little long in the tooth. I would love for a Nintendo console that has PlayStation 5 style load times, i.e. basically none. That's just for one, and then maybe bump the graphics up a little bit because it's starting to show its age. But so my point is, I don't know how many more big games like Xenoblade 3 there are going to be on the Switch. So maybe this will remain my favorite game on the Switch. Who knows? If my feelings ever do change, if something comes along that blows my mind, I'll make sure to let you know. You deserve it. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hey, you know what? Tell me in the comments why you think I'm wrong with my list. I'd love to hear yours. You don't have to put it in a confrontational manner if you don't want to. You can be nice about it. It's fine. I feel like I encourage you to yell at me a lot, but really it's fine to have a nice conversation too. But yeah, I absolutely would love to hear what your favorite Switch games are, especially if there's some that aren't in my list. Maybe I haven't played them. So let me know. If you would please like the video, if you'd please subscribe and maybe share the channel with a friend or something. I'd love to see it grow and get some more people in here so we can hear some more voices. And I don't feel like I'm floating alone out in the universe like a worthless speck of dust. Anyway, bye.